In the clandestine world of cybersecurity, where lines between black hat hackers and white hat defenders blur, one name emerged to challenge the very fabric of digital security. A name that sent shockwaves through the intelligence community, leaving seasoned experts questioning their own defenses. This is the story of a teenager with a genius-level intellect and an insatiable curiosity that led him down a path of unprecedented cyber espionage. The Prodigy, as he came to be known, possessed a rare combination of technical prowess and audacious bravado that set him apart from his peers. It all began innocently enough, a young mind eager to explore the boundless possibilities of the internet. But what started as a quest for knowledge quickly spiraled into a high-stakes game of cat and mouse with the world's most powerful agencies. The Prodigy's insatiable thirst for challenge and his innate ability to outsmart even the most sophisticated security measures soon caught the attention of the FBI. Unbeknownst to them, a digital wonderkind was about to breach their impenetrable fortress, exposing vulnerabilities that had long been deemed secure. Narration. As news of the breach spread like wildfire across global networks, the race to capture the elusive Prodigy began. Governments mobilized their cyber warfare units, corporations tightened their digital defenses, and the hacker community itself stood divided between admiration and condemnation. The world watched in awe as this teenage savant danced on the razor's edge of legality, his every move a calculated risk that kept the authorities one step behind. But as the manhunt intensified, one question loomed large. Who was the Prodigy, and what drove him to challenge the powers that be with such audacity? Join us as we unravel the enigmatic persona behind the screen, the teenager who hacked the FBI and ignited a global manhunt. In the dead of night, a shadowy figure hunched over a computer, their fingers dancing across the keyboard with lightning speed. The hum of the machine filled the room, the only sound in the silent darkness. This was no ordinary teenager. This was a cyber prodigy, a master of code and deception. With a few deft keystrokes, they breached the seemingly impenetrable defenses of the FBI's network, slipping through virtual cracks undetected. The thrill of the hack coursed through their veins, adrenaline pumping as they delved deeper into the heart of the agency's most classified information. Narration. As lines of code scrolled across the screen, a sense of power surged within the hacker. They were no longer just a teenager sitting in their bedroom. They were a force to be reckoned with in the digital realm. The FBI, once considered untouchable, now lay vulnerable at their fingertips. Sensitive files, confidential documents, the inner workings of the most powerful law enforcement agency in the country, all laid bare before them. With each new discovery, the stakes grew higher, the danger more palpable. But this hacker was undeterred, driven by a thirst for knowledge and a desire to push the limits of their abilities. Narration. And then, in a split second, everything changed. A sudden blip on the screen, a flicker of awareness that they had been discovered. The hacker's heart raced as alarms blared, lights flashing in a chaotic symphony of warning. The FBI was onto them, tracing their digital footsteps with ruthless precision. The global manhunt had begun, with the teenager at the center of a storm of controversy and intrigue. But even as the world closed in around them, the hacker remained defiant, a symbol of the new age of cyber warfare. The cyber intrusion had begun, and the consequences would be felt far and wide. As the clock struck midnight at the FBI headquarters, a sense of unease filled the air. Little did they know that within their supposedly impenetrable digital fortress, a storm was brewing. The night was silent, save for the soft hum of servers processing data in the background. And then, it happened. An alert flashed on the screens of the cyber division, a seemingly innocuous notification that would send shockwaves through the entire agency. The words, "Breach detected," glared back at them, a stark reminder of the vulnerability that lurked within their own systems. Panic set in as agents scrambled to assess the extent of the intrusion, their hearts racing with a mix of fear and disbelief. In a matter of moments, the realization dawned upon them that they were dealing with a threat unlike any they had encountered before. The hacker, a mere teenager with a penchant for coding, had managed to bypass their elaborate security measures with ease. The implications of this breach were far-reaching. sending ripples of concern across the highest echelons of power. How could a single individual, armed only with a computer and a Wi-Fi connection, bring one of the most powerful agencies in the world to its knees? It was a question that haunted them as they frantically worked to contain the damage, their every move scrutinized under the harsh glare of the media spotlight. With each passing hour, the magnitude of the hack became increasingly clear. Classified information had been compromised, sensitive files leaked to the public with impunity. The hackers' motives remained shrouded in mystery, their identity a tantalizing enigma that seemed to taunt the authorities at every turn. As the investigation unfolded, tensions ran high within the FBI ranks, suspicion and paranoia clouding their judgment. Every shadow seemed to hide a potential threat, every interaction fraught with the possibility of betrayal. The teenager had become a symbol of defiance, a living embodiment of the digital age's capacity to disrupt and dismantle even the most fortified institutions. And so, as the night wore on and the world slept unaware, the FBI found themselves locked in a battle of wits with an adversary unlike any they had faced before. The unraveling had begun, a descent into chaos that would test their resolve and push them to their limits. But one thing was certain: the teenager who hacked the FBI had ignited a global manhunt, a pursuit that would stretch across borders and defy conventional notions of justice. The stage was set for a showdown of epic proportions, a clash between tradition and innovation, between old-world power and the relentless march of progress. And as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the world held its breath in anticipation of what would come next. As the sun set on another day, the world was thrown into chaos by the actions of one daring teenager. The headlines blared with the news of a breach so audacious it sent shockwaves through the highest levels of security. The FBI, known for their expertise in cybercrime, found themselves outmaneuvered by a young hacker who seemed to operate with reckless abandon. As the digital fingerprints of the intruder were analyzed, a chilling realization dawned: this was no ordinary adversary. This was a prodigious talent, a digital savant whose skills surpassed those of seasoned professionals. Narration. The manhunt began in earnest, with law enforcement agencies around the globe joining forces to track down the elusive hacker. From the bustling streets of New York City to the quiet suburbs of Tokyo, every lead was pursued with relentless determination. The hacker's digital trail led investigators on a wild goose chase as they struggled to keep up with the sheer speed and agility of their quarry. As each attempt to corner the hacker ended in frustration, the tension mounted and the stakes grew higher. The world watched with bated breath, wondering when and where the elusive teenager would strike next. Narration. With each passing day, the manhunt intensified, drawing in experts from the tech industry, government agencies, and even rival hackers eager to prove their mettle. The hacker, once a shadowy figure lurking in the depths of the internet, had now become a household name, a symbol of defiance against the establishment. As the investigation delved deeper into the hacker's motives and methods, a portrait began to emerge: a troubled genius, driven by a desire to challenge the status quo and expose vulnerabilities in the system. The world braced itself for the next move in this high-stakes game of cat and mouse, as the teenager who hacked the FBI continued to evade capture, leaving a trail of digital chaos in their wake. As the hacker's digital trail grew colder, law enforcement agencies around the world were ramping up their efforts to track down the elusive teenager who had managed to breach the FBI's secure systems. It was a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, with both sides employing every trick in the book to outsmart the other. The hacker, known only by their online alias, seemed to revel in the challenge, taunting authorities with cryptic messages and leaving behind a trail of breadcrumbs that seemed to lead nowhere. Narration. Every move made by the hacker was met with a swift response from law enforcement, who were determined to bring the culprit to justice. The tension was palpable as the hacker continued to evade capture, slipping through the cracks of even the most sophisticated cyber defenses. Each new breach sent shockwaves through the security community, raising questions about the vulnerability of even the most secure systems. The cat-and-mouse game had reached a fever pitch, with the hacker always seeming to be one step ahead of those who were trying to catch them. Narration. As the global manhunt intensified, the hacker's true identity remained a mystery, shrouded in secrecy and speculation. The stakes were higher than ever, with the hacker's actions having far-reaching implications for national security and the safety of millions of individuals. The cat-and-mouse game had become a battle of wits and wills, with the hacker testing the limits of their own abilities and the resolve of those who were trying to stop them. And as the world held its breath, wondering when the next move would be made, one thing was certain. This was a game that neither side was willing to lose. As we delve into the murky depths of the cyber underground, a chilling realization dawns upon us. Behind the veil of anonymity, hidden within the labyrinthine corridors of online forums and black markets, lurk the masterminds of the digital age. These shadowy figures, armed with nothing but a keyboard and a thirst for chaos, wield a power that can shake the very foundations of our society. It is here, in this virtual realm of darkness and deceit, that our story truly begins. But who are these individuals? These enigmatic hackers who dance on the edge of legality and morality? They are the architects of chaos, the renegades of the digital frontier. They operate in the shadows, their identities masked by layers of encryption and false personas. Their motivations are as diverse as the colors of the rainbow, ranging from political activism to personal vendettas. And yet, despite their disparate goals, they are united by a common thread: the relentless pursuit of knowledge and power in a world that is increasingly defined by ones and zeros. The cyber underground is a breeding ground for innovation and destruction, a battleground where the forces of good and evil collide in a never-ending struggle for supremacy. It is a world where the lines between right and wrong blur, where the concept of morality is as fluid as the code that powers our digital infrastructure. And it is within this chaotic landscape that our protagonist, the teenage hacker who dared to challenge the might of the FBI, found a home. In the next chapter, we will follow his journey into the heart of darkness, where his actions would ignite a global manhunt and forever change the course of cyber history. As the world held its breath, waiting for the elusive teenage hacker to make their next move, a shocking turn of events unfolded behind the scenes. It was a betrayal of the highest order, one that would send shockwaves through the tech world and beyond. The hacker's close associate, someone who had been by their side from the beginning, had decided to turn them in to the authorities. The trust that had once bound them together was shattered in an instant, replaced by a cold, calculating betrayal that would change everything. The decision to betray the hacker did not come lightly. The associate had wrestled with their conscience, torn between loyalty to their friend and the knowledge of the crimes that had been committed. In the end, they made a choice that would haunt them for the rest of their days. They reached out to the authorities, providing them with the information they needed to track down the hacker and bring them to justice. It was a move that would forever alter the course of the investigation and set in motion a chain of events that no one could have predicted. As the authorities closed in on the hacker, the tension reached a fever pitch. The hacker, once a figure of mystery and intrigue, now found themselves on the run, pursued by law enforcement agencies from around the world. The betrayal had set off a global manhunt, with every move the hacker made scrutinized and analyzed by a watchful public. The stakes had never been higher, and the outcome of this high-stakes game of cat and mouse was anyone's guess. In the end, the hackers' reign of cyber terror came to an abrupt and dramatic end. They were apprehended in a daring raid that played out like a scene from a Hollywood movie. The once feared hacker was now in custody, their face splashed across newspapers and television screens worldwide. The betrayal that had led to their downfall would go down in history as one of the most shocking twists in the annals of tech crime. And as the dust settled on this gripping saga, one question remained: what drove the associate to betray their friend? And what would be the lasting consequences of their fateful decision? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the quiet suburban neighborhood was suddenly flooded with the blinding lights of police cars. The teenage hacker, known to the world only by his online alias, had finally been caught. The dramatic capture unfolded like a scene from a Hollywood thriller, squad cars screeching to a halt, officers storming the house with guns drawn, and the young prodigy being dragged out in handcuffs. The world held its breath as news of the arrest spread like wildfire, igniting a frenzy of speculation and intrigue. How could a mere teenager have outsmarted the FBI for so long? What secrets did he hold in his digital arsenal? The interrogation room was cold and sterile, the harsh fluorescent lights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The teenage hacker sat in silence, his eyes fixed on the two-way mirror that separated him from his interrogators. The tension in the air was palpable, a thick fog of anticipation and dread hanging over the room. The lead investigator entered, his presence commanding and authoritative. With a steely gaze, he locked eyes with the young hacker, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "You thought you were untouchable, didn't you?" he sneered. The hacker remained silent, his expression unreadable. But beneath the facade of indifference, a storm was brewing, a storm of fear, defiance, and a burning desire to prove his worth. As the hours ticked by, the interrogation intensified, the questions becoming more pointed and accusatory. The hacker's facade began to crack, revealing glimpses of vulnerability and insecurity. The lead investigator pressed harder, his voice rising with each accusation. "You think you're smarter than us, don't you? You think you can outwit the entire system?" The hacker's eyes flashed with anger, a flicker of defiance igniting within him. "I did what I had to do," he finally spoke, his voice raw and filled with emotion. "I wanted to show the world that I was more than just a kid with a laptop. I wanted to make a difference." And with those words, the teenage hacker's fate was sealed. A global manhunt had come to an end, but the repercussions of his actions would reverberate for years to come. As the case of the teenage hacker who infiltrated the FBI's database unfolded, the legal battle that ensued gripped the nation with its intensity and complexity. The young prodigy found himself at the center of a global manhunt, his actions sparking a fierce debate about cybersecurity, privacy, and the boundaries of technology. The courtroom became a battleground where seasoned lawyers clashed, each side presenting compelling arguments that would shape the outcome of the case. Narration. The public outcry was deafening, with supporters rallying behind the teenager, hailing him as a genius who had exposed vulnerabilities in the system. On the other side, critics condemned his actions as reckless and dangerous, calling for harsh punishment to set an example for others who might be tempted to follow in his footsteps. The tension in the air was palpable as the legal proceedings unfolded, each twist and turn in the case sending shockwaves through the community. Narration. As the trial reached its climax, the world held its breath, waiting for the final verdict that would determine the teenager's fate. The courtroom was a stage where justice hung in the balance, where the weight of the law clashed with the power of youth and innovation. In the end, the decision that was reached would not only shape the life of the young hacker, but would also leave a lasting impact on the world of cybersecurity and technology. The legal battle may have ended, but its echoes would reverberate for years to come. As the dust settled from the unprecedented cyber breach that rocked the world, the aftermath of the teenager's hack on the FBI reverberated across the cybersecurity landscape like a seismic shockwave. In the wake of the breach, governments and corporations scrambled to reassess their digital defenses, realizing the vulnerability exposed by a single teenager with a laptop and a mission. The once invincible facade of cybersecurity was shattered, revealing cracks in the armor that no amount of patches or firewalls could fully mend. The global manhunt for the elusive hacker had ended, but the impact of his actions was far from over. Narration. The teenager's hack on the FBI served as a wake-up call for the world, forcing a paradigm shift in how we approach cybersecurity. No longer could organizations rely solely on traditional measures to protect sensitive data and infrastructure. The incident highlighted the urgent need for a new breed of cybersecurity professionals, equipped with the skills and mindset to anticipate and thwart the ever-evolving tactics of malicious actors. The teenager's audacious breach had sparked a revolution in the industry, with companies investing heavily in advanced threat detection systems and cybersecurity training programs to fortify their digital fortresses. Narration. As the teenager faced the consequences of his actions, the world watched with bated breath, to see what the future held for the young prodigy turned cyber criminal. Would he be condemned as a villain or hailed as a hero for exposing the vulnerabilities in our digital defenses? The teenager's story served as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the immense power wielded by those with the skills to breach even the most fortified systems. The aftermath of his hack on the FBI was a turning point in the history of cybersecurity, challenging us to rethink our approach to digital security in an increasingly interconnected world where a single keystroke could have devastating consequences. As the dust settles on the shocking events that transpired in the wake of the teenage hacker's breach of the FBI's most secure systems, the world is left reeling. The implications of this brazen act of cyber espionage are far-reaching, sending shockwaves through the highest echelons of government and the tech industry alike. The global manhunt that ensued in the aftermath of the hack serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities that exist in our interconnected world. It is a wake-up call to the urgent need for better cybersecurity measures to protect our most sensitive data from falling into the wrong hands. Narration. The lessons learned from this harrowing ordeal are clear. No system is impervious to the determined efforts of a skilled hacker, especially one as audacious as the teenager who dared to take on the might of the FBI. The need for constant vigilance and proactive measures to safeguard against cyber threats has never been more pressing. The consequences of a breach of this magnitude are too grave to ignore. The fallout from this incident serves as a cautionary tale for governments, corporations, and individuals alike to invest in robust cybersecurity defenses to prevent such a catastrophic breach from ever happening again. Narration. In the wake of this unprecedented hack, the cybersecurity landscape is forever changed. The teenager who once captured the world's attention with his audacious exploits has now become a symbol of the dangers posed by malicious actors in the digital age. The global manhunt may have ended with his capture, but the reverberations of his actions will be felt for years to come. It is a stark reminder of the power that one individual can wield in the vast expanse of cyberspace. The lessons learned from this chapter in tech history must not be forgotten. It is a call to arms for a more secure and resilient digital future, where the threat of cyber attacks looms large, and the need for vigilance is paramount. As we come to the conclusion of this gripping tale of a teenage hacker who dared to challenge the might of the FBI, we are left to ponder the legacy of his actions. The world of cybersecurity was forever changed by this audacious breach, as the vulnerabilities exposed in the FBI's systems sent shockwaves through the tech industry. The global manhunt that ensued served as a stark reminder of the power that a single individual, armed only with a computer and a determination to defy authority, could wield in the digital age. But what truly sets this case apart is not just the magnitude of the hack, but the lasting impact it has had on the cybersecurity landscape. With each passing day, the repercussions of this brazen act reverberate across the digital realm, shaping the way we approach cybersecurity on a global scale. The vulnerabilities exploited by the teenage hacker forced governments and tech companies alike to reevaluate their security protocols, leading to a new era of vigilance in the face of ever-evolving cyber threats. The lessons learned from this incident have paved the way for a new generation of cybersecurity professionals who strive to stay one step ahead of the hackers who seek to exploit our digital vulnerabilities. The legacy of the teenage hacker serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the constant cat-and-mouse game that defines the world of cybersecurity. As we reflect on the impact of this singular event, we are reminded of the power of technology to both unite and divide us. The teenage hacker, once seen as a lone wolf, now stands as a symbol of the complex interplay between technology and society. His actions have sparked debates about the limits of individual freedom in the digital age, as well as the responsibilities that come with wielding such power. The legacy of the teenage hacker is not just a cautionary tale, but a call to action for all who navigate the treacherous waters of the internet. For in this ever-changing landscape, where the line between hero and villain is blurred, it is up to each of us to decide which side of history we will stand on.